Happy Wednesday night and welcome to A Look on the Plus Side. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you guys, as always, for being with us. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. It's called the Park Adventures Club. We got a lot of cool content coming your way all the time, and we'll talk about it at the end. Also, please give this video a thumbs up as it helps people to find us. And tonight, we are talking about a movie. It's a little off the beaten path, but it is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So, I like this movie, watched this movie, we have thoughts on this movie, but the person who picked this movie is Mr. Ron Deanna. What's going on, Ron? Oh, I can't hear you.
I just want to say hi to all the hoopy fruits out there. And I want to start off by saying, since we know stress and nervous tension are now serious social problems in all parts of the internet, and in order that this situation should not be in any way exacerbated, that the following opinion will now be revealed in advance. This isn't the best adaptation of the story.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's the monologue for now.
Well, I got to tell everybody that when Ron turned on his camera and I saw he had his towel, I knew we were in for quite a night here tonight. You know what? Thank you for being here, Ron. Thank you guys for being here in the chat. Let's see everybody. Fire Chief Ronald, Jake, Care Bear, thank you for being here. Let's talk about this because I reached out to you. I said, hey, can we do a movie? I had a couple of suggestions for you. And you said, have we done Hitchhiker's Guide yet? And I said, no. And you're like, that's the one we have to do. And you said you'd read the book 13 times. So I don't think there's anybody more qualified than you and to talk about this one, is there?
It is my absolute favorite book, the first two in particular. But the original 4-part trilogy, definitely read several times. After that, I don't think I've ever even read the one that was written by afterwards, but always loved Douglas Adams. I think he is responsible for my sense of humor as much as anything. I first found the books at a book fair in middle school and just tore through them and reread them. It's kind of my lazy day read because you can get through the first book in a couple hours, really. So yeah, I've watched the BBC show several times. Regularly, one of my go-to listens when I just need to zone out is the radio show. So yeah, it is definitely one of my just favorite things of all time.
Yeah. So here's the book, and then you've got your phone case as well. Don't panic. Yes. Yep. You're gonna have all the puns tonight, man. I'm leaning on you for it. So, the book, obviously, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams, and yes, the joke being that there was a trilogy, a 4-part trilogy. But also, the funny thing to me is I feel like I was not that guy that grew up with this, and I feel like maybe did you also like Monty Python?
Yeah, I mean, it was about the same time I probably got into Python, which would have been when it was running reruns on Comedy Central back before Comedy Central had any of its really own programming. It was like Python reruns, Benny Hill, I think like Whose Line Is It Anyway? So I kind of grew up loving the British comedy stuff. And I mean, Adams is really an extension of Python. He wrote he wrote some sketches for their last season. He's worked with Terry Jones. I mean, he's a Python writer and a Doctor Who writer. So who can be better at British sci-fi comedy? I mean,
I got to tell you, I got vibes from both of those things. So, I mean, it makes sense that would be the case because I definitely was feeling some Doctor Who, definitely feeling some Monty Python, and it's almost like it's absurd. There's an absurdity to it that can only match up with those other two things, but it's absurd in all the best of ways. It was really funny. I was watching it tonight, and my daughter came home, and I was 42 minutes into it. 42. I was 42 minutes into it, and she said, "What are you watching?" I said, "Hitchhiker's Guide. You ever watch it?" She said, "No." And I said, "Well, here, this will be fun. Just jump in right here, and I want to explain nothing to you because anything I explain to you really wouldn't catch you up at this point. So, just have at it and let's just like watch it." So it's it's just all over the place. I can't wait to dive into this, especially and talk to you about it. But let's go to the stat board first and talk a little bit about this. The runtime, an hour 49 minutes. The release was April 29th, April 28th in the UK, but April 29th here at 2005. It was rated PG. The box office did 140 million. The budget was 50 million, and the company was Touchstone. And
So
Touchstone
yeah, was it
Spyglass.
Disney?
Right, exactly. So it wasn't
Yeah.
Disney, but I had thought originally maybe this had been something like that with that Walden deal. They did a book deal with Walden Books to do, or what? Not Walden Books, but Walden Media to do a whole bunch of movies, and that brought us Bridge to Terabithia, that brought us Holes, and a whole lot of others. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So seemed like it was around this time, and maybe that would be the thing. But obviously, this one done on the Touchstone label, probably because of the quirkiness. Maybe that it was a little outside the realm of a Disney movie. You think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the rights. I mean, were gobbled up in the early '80s, and it just took forever to get a version of the script out. I mean, I just know like Adams tried for years, and I mean, this took 20 years of trying to get a movie out, and I think part of it is such it everything in it relies so much on the kind of spoken word or the descriptions that the jokes just fly by in the movie that you're not going to always get. Um, like I think it's this movie was not made for someone who's not that familiar with the franchise. I think it was made for people who are familiar and understand that every version is going to be a bit different
Yeah.
because we have the radio show initially, the books, the most difficult video game of all time. I've never made it past Arthur's house. Um, and then, the BBC radio show and the movie. I mean, they all follow basically the same story, but not. I mean, the towel wasn't even in the initial radio run. So, and that's become the most iconic part about it.
There's a lot of can we call it iconography about this? I don't know. There were two other things that came to mind with me that this reminded me of. One was Rocky Horror, because Rocky Horror has all those things like the throwing toast and all that other stuff that come along, that you play along because you know these pieces are coming. The other one is the Minecraft movie, because I went and watched the Minecraft movie. I don't play Minecraft, but my son took a whole like party of people to go see it who were Minecraft people from the beginning, and I think they saw it on a different level than I did. Like it was a coherent story, but I'm sure there was a bunch of things that jumped out, and they were like, "Oh, it's that. Oh, it's this." And I assume that that's the same thing with this. Is that I could watch this movie as a coherent story, never having read the book. But also, I'm hearing a lot of things as I'm watching it, or watching this movie. So long and thanks for all the fish. Don't panic. Babelfish.
Yeah.
The life, the universe, and everything. The answer is 42. Like all of these things I've heard before, even though I've not really. I thought I'd watch this movie, but I hadn't. And so even though I hadn't watched the movie, hadn't read the books, I've heard these things.
Yeah, so much of it has infiltrated the pop culture. I mean, 42, every science fiction franchise, it pops up just regularly as a number people love to throw in. Uh, Deep Blue was named after Deep Thought. The first major translation website was Babelfish. I mean, all of this just shows kind of the impact this thing had when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, to show you how off the beaten path I am, when I see 42, I think of Jackie Robinson. Why?
I
Like,
mean, there's been a theory that was where the number came from because Adams never really said. There's a few people I believe who said, "Oh, he told me." I think like was it Stephen Fry and Neil Gaiman said they might have been told, but everybody's got their theory. But I actually
yeah.
have heard the Jackie Robinson one at some point as well.
So there was a 1981 TV series. I think it was Ronald may have mentioned that in chat. Yes, I remember the 1980s BBC show. So the 1981 series was really the only time we saw this in like video form, right? There was the
Yeah.
radio bit, there was the all there were the books, but that was really the only time we saw that. Have you and you've consumed that? You've watched that multiple times, maybe?
Yeah, at least a handful of times. It's fun, and it feels very much in that, Python early Who kind of way, but it also, was a low budget BBC show. And that kind of sometimes makes those things a little harder to watch. I mean, Python didn't rely on any kind of just losing yourself in, any kind of verisimilitude. It was mostly realism, but absurdism. Like, there wasn't anything that like had to bring you to a foreign world. So yeah, it does take you out a bit, but it's still fun to watch. And most of the actors were the original from the audio play. So, and I don't know if it seeing that at one point like never really affected. Like when I read the books, I actually picture some of the Python characters as the characters in my head. Like whenever I've read the books, Eric Idle is always Ford. Sardi Bartfast is John Cleese, and Michael Palin is Arthur. That who shows up in my head when I read the book.
Okay. Well, yeah, and obviously, again, the ties to Python. So, when I look at this on Disney Plus, now again, this is something that's on Disney Plus, but it's on Disney Plus as included with your Hulu subscription. And because we've said this before, is on this show, a look on the plus side, we're doing primarily Disney Plus. We linger into Hulu Plus. Universal, where their park ties, and then some special exceptions. So this one falls under the category really more of a Hulu sort of a thing. But the description on there says, seconds before Earth is destroyed, Arthur Dent is whisked into space. What an understated comment, if I've ever heard one. There's like, that doesn't really give even an iota of what this could be about. But like I said, it feels like it is just a roller coaster
Yeah.
ride of crazy, weird
It
things and references and all that.
it just starts and it doesn't stop, and it fires jokes at you that you try and analyze for a second, but the next one's coming and you have to move on, and then you realize there's nothing to analyze. It is it is satire wrapped in absurdism just being thrown at you again and again and again, and you can't stop to think about it as you're watching it, or you're just gonna miss something.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is that absurd is the word. Like that's the one that initially just like breaks into my head when when I started to describe this like to my wife. When it opens up, it's opening up with this whole bit with the dolphins, and immediately I was like, oh, that's probably a SeaWorld thing, but it's not. And you probably already know this, but to let everybody else know, that entire sequence was done at Loro Park, Parque, a zoo and theme park in Spain. And so I did see that on like the little boat the kid was in, and then just Googled it and then tracked it down to this. But it felt like any SeaWorld attraction sort of a thing. But they make this whole reference about that the dolphins know, and that that they're going to leave the earth because they know it's the end. And their final message is, of course, what?
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
What did you think of the song the first time you heard the song?
It so I went to this movie. I was working night shifts at the time, so I actually went to like, not every movie got a, early like day before release like they do now, or even a midnight release. So I went to like a noon show because I was working nights. I went to the first showing, and I sat so like no real reviews or anything, and sat down. And I was just like, well, that was unexpected, and I think it put a lot of fans on the wrong foot to start, just because it was so different. But it's not. It really does fit the humor. It fits the sense of things, and it's a way of conveying some of the things that would have been dictated by the book into something that's interesting and, not this little aside.
Yeah. No, but again, you're probably, as you're watching it, linking everything to the book. Like I said, that feels a lot like probably Minecraft is. It had to be a movie that could stand alone and not just be 100% fan service, but it's fan service. If you go to see something like Firefly or Serenity, the movie Serenity based on the Firefly series, you're not really going to go see that unless you watched all of the Firefly episodes, I feel like. Minecraft felt like maybe you could still catch there was some celebrities in it, and there was there was still a storyline, but you probably missed out on a ton of stuff, and didn't get all excited when certain things enter the room. Like when I saw it, I watched it on streaming and by myself, and there wasn't an audience reaction to, like, chicken jockey and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm missing out on some stuff here as well. Let's talk about Douglas Adams first again before we go back into this movie. Is that he, like you said, he'd been working on this for a while, working on the script. He is listed as one of two of the screenwriters, had worked on the screenplay for his book to become this movie, and unfortunately passed away in 2001. And then they didn't actually start filming until 2004. And so they credit the movie at the end like, this is for Douglas. So it's probably one of those things where it would have been great if we could have seen the final work and we could have gotten, like, his blessing on it. But at least he had a hand in it and knew what direction it was going in. But it certainly took that time from when he passed away in 2001 till actually it started filming in 2004, and then of course released in 2005.
Yeah, I think everybody involved, like, knew, knew him and wanted to continue that. Like, the book is narrated in the movie by Stephen Fry, who, has a long-standing relationship with John Lloyd, who was a creator of QI and Blackadder, and not necessarily the 9 o'clock news and all these things. And he was kind of the co-writer for a couple of the original radio episodes. I mean, he just kind of later on, like when they did the book deal, he was going to have to be involved because he was credited for a couple of the episodes. But he kind of just said, it's like, I just kind of polished the scripts. So, but there were all these people there, and who loved Douglas and loved the material to kind of keep it going. And even Douglas himself said, every time I do a new version of it, I have to do a little different. I don't want to just make exactly the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I think he couldn't really be blamed for making the same thing over and over again for anything that he did of his content. It's all just a little bit different. All right, so let's talk about Garth Jennings, the director of this thing. Interestingly, that he was mostly a music video director before, like, doing this movie. And so, like, when I was going back and looking at his credits, it was like Radiohead and Vampire Weekend and all these
Well, let's
videos.
just go with Radiohead. I mean, who one of their most famous songs is a reference to Hitchhiker's Guy, like Paranoid Android is about is Marvin. So,
right.
But I mean, this was also the time where you were getting, like, Spike Jonze was becoming a big film director, and so there was those '90s Fincher, like these guys who broke out of directing music videos to being some of the biggest directors of the time, especially like in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I was looking through. It's like REM, Beck, then the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and then back to doing Beck and Radiohead, and then the Son of Rambo was there, but then really nothing big until Sing came out, and he did all three, or the two Sing movies, and then there's a third one that's coming up. So definitely an interesting departure to do that from this movie. But again, this movie is this year celebrated 20 years. Does it feel like 20 years, Ron?
Yeah,
it does.
It, really
feels like you could feel like every one of them.
No, I mean, it doesn't. I mean, this is 20 years. That's how long since I've been in Boston, so it's really hitting me about how long ago that is now.
I know you have a young daughter. I assume she hasn't watched this yet.
No, I don't
Okay,
think this is
when's the right
really.
age for a kid to watch this movie?
I think it's a middle school. Like I think middle school, like when I found it at the book fair, is kind of the right age to get into it. But you're still not gonna. So much of it just still flew over my head for years. No matter how many times I read it, and there's still times I think I was reading, into my 20s, going, "Oh, wait a minute." Especially with so many of the references to British things.
Like
I think it's part
pubs.
of that too. Well, no,
Um,
not
no, but that was my segue. That was my segue to
yeah,
talk about how here comes Ford bringing this huge thing of, and again we are being torn left and right at this point. If again, for me personally, that doesn't know the book, it's like, hey, here's some dolphins. Well, they're gonna fly up into space and they're singing thanks for goodbye and thanks for so long and thanks for all the fish. And then we go and we show up at this guy's house and there's like this trimmer and then his house is going to be pulled down and then here comes this guy with a full shopping cart full of beer and it's just like, what are we doing? Like, it's just all over. Like, for me who's never read this is just so all over the place. But we've got Arthur and his house is about to be pulled down for to build a bypass. And then the fact that then later on the bypass, again, not knowing the story, the bypass is going to, like, the space bypass is happening and his planet is being destroyed for the space bypass. At this point I'm going, is this really more Wizard of Oz? Like, are we going to find out that, like, this was all some pipe dream that he had and he had fallen and hit his head when he dropped the coffee cup, and really it was about, you see what I'm saying? Like, they laid breadcrumbs as if
yeah.
this could have been not that. Does the book do that? Does the book kind of lead you to believe, like, we're not really sure if this is real or imaginary or if he's dreaming this?
No,
Or okay.
because of the way it's narrated, it really doesn't, and it goes right into it. And I mean, the whole point of that is really just the whole concept of making fun of bureaucracy is just something you never get away from, and you're never going to. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of one of his major themes throughout everything here.
So let's, before we move more into the story, let's talk about the cast, because Mos Def and Martin Freeman in this, I feel like, are freaking amazing. And like, I would not have labeled Mos Def to be like just an insanely good actor, and then seeing him in this, I just really kind of felt like he was. Um, you got, and again, Martin Freeman, I feel like is one of the most, maybe one of the most underrated actors that we've got out there when you start to stop and think of all the things that he's done over time. From being
Yeah.
in, the Shire, to then being in the MCU, to being on Sherlock. Like, he's not been really the lead, but just sort of adjacent to a huge amount of things in his career. And you go back down to his IMDb and it's just massive. So I mean, is this
This is
your
the
favorite
first.
role for him?
I mean, this is the first time I think I remember him as a starring role. So yeah, this. I mean, like I think he was in Love Actually and some other stuff I'd seen before that. But like, I think this is the first time I remember him in a lead, and because of that, it is yeah, more than the MCU, more than The Hobbit. This is what I do remember him for.
Gotcha.
One, just because I've seen it more times, and yeah,
So he was amazing in this, and then Zoe Deschanel seems like it's out of left field. And a lot of times when I'm watching something, I feel like where they mix like American actors with British actors, and it doesn't seem to make sense. And this one they kind of call attention to the fact about Mos Def having like the American accent, and why, because of him being from an alien from another place.
yeah.
And so it makes sense. But like Sam Rockwell, again, he's an alien, so he doesn't need to be, he doesn't need, we don't need to justify that. So everybody else is British as they should be, because that's where his little house is and he takes place. But so again, Mos Def, Martin Freeman, Sam Rockwell, Zoe Deschanel, and then of course, Stephen Fry is the narrator, but John Malkovich, this role for him, so out of left field. Did you? I assume he must have been a fan of some sort.
I mean, this is kind of that avant-garde era. I mean, like this was not, like kicking off being John Malkovich and other stuff at this kind of time period. So yeah, he was just playing into weird, and Hamakavula is weird.
Yeah, weird is an understatement for that one. But like, I mean, again, for me that didn't read the book, is that how the character is? Like, is he half
It's such a
machine? Is
minor
he
cat. It's really not
okay?
even a thing. So one of the major, the whole going to Vodal 6. I mean, this was just kind of a passage from the guide, like where they talk about it. The going to the Vogue sphere, none of that's in any of the other versions, really. So those were things that Douglas, did approve and add to the movie. From my understanding, like he did do that. Like, and there's, it is well, even though it's new, it's well constructed. It's like when they're getting slapped in the face walking around on Vogue sphere, you realize that's why. Like every time they say think and something slaps them, that's why the Vogons are the way they are with the upturned noses and just no imagination, because that's what they have to live with. It's just got so many layers and ties itself together in great ways.
Yeah, it's kind of yeah. But again, that's one of those things where they're slapping the faces are slapping, getting slapped, and I'm just like, this is so random. And it reminded me at that point, because again, apparently this reminds me of every movie I've ever seen, Ron. But it reminded me of The Princess Bride when they go into the what is it, the forbidden, I forget what it's called. It's not the dark forest or the forbidden
Uh,
forest, but when they when he's like, rodents of unusual size, I don't think they exist, and then he gets
the
attacked.
swamp, the fire swamps.
Fire swamps, yes. So that's what that sort of felt like every step they took, like the thing attacking them. That was so crazy. Yeah, somebody, fire chief said Sam Rockwell is a great actor, and I like most of his movies. He's another one, like just like
Yeah.
Martin Freeman. I feel like he's probably he probably needs more praise than he gets, but he's quietly great in all of the things he does. The first thing I remember Sam Rockwell in for me was Galaxy Quest as Guy.
Yes.
Ugh, so good.
Yeah.
He's the red shirt, and he's like, "I'm gonna die." Yeah,
I will think one of my biggest complaints about this adaptation is the way they did Zaphod with the way they did the two heads, because they robbed us of having double Sam Rockwell, like having him argue with himself constantly by having the two heads, and like the way that he's been presented in the other media.
so that's not a thing in the book. The two head thing.
No, the two head thing is, but it's not like one pops up and takes over. It's the two of them, and they do kind of argue with each other sometimes.
Yeah, it was super weird when that happened, and part of me is like, again, it reminds me of some other media, but I can't really remember what. But yeah, it was a little bizarre, and so I assumed it was like that in the book, or they wouldn't have gone out of their way to do it that way.
Why is my tongue blue? I had a blue raspberry marshmallow cider because it was the spaciest drink I could find.
Oh, is that somebody from the chat needing to know about that?
Yeah.
You know what's funny is that my son and I, when Rick and Morty was a big deal, we would get that like kind of those green Gatorades or whatever to drink when we would watch Rick and Morty. And the funny thing is that when I was done with this and I was watching on Hulu, not Disney Plus, it said, "Would you like to watch Rick and Morty?" Like I thought, okay, so maybe there's some similarities to the type of people who would watch this versus and included into the people who would watch Rick and Morty. But And I'm sure that Rick and Morty, like if I go back and watch it now, I'm sure there's got to be at least a couple references to Hitchhikers in some way.
I think every comic writer who came after it was influenced by it. I think it's just one of those things that's impossible not to be if you're in that field, especially sci-fi comedy, because this is kind of the grandfather of that.
Yeah. So the other names that I did mention, Helen Mirren as Deep Thought, which is great, and then Thomas Lennon, because again,
As
another
Eddie,
actor
the computer.
just like Sam Rockwell and Martin Freeman. I feel like he's underappreciated because he's in everything and does everything, and like I remember him from Reno 911, but also like he wrote Night at the Museum. He shows up on game shows.
I
Like
didn't know that.
you didn't know he wrote Night at the Museum? Yeah, crazy,
No,
right?
I know him from the state. Like, is where I found him and all those guys. Like,
Yeah.
one of the weirdest shows of all time.
The last thing we talk about with the with regards to the cast, I think, is the combination for Marvin being Warwick Davis and of course Alan Rickman. So the question that I have is, like, when they did this, did Warwick Davis think he was like very much like David Prowse? Like David Prowse thought he was going to be the voice of Darth Vader, and then it ended up being James Earl Jones. Do you think that when they shot this, they thought Warwick Davis was going to be that he thought he was going to be the voice?
Probably not, because I mean, he and Rickman had been working together for years. I mean, Hogwarts. They had to do this during like a Hogwarts break, I assume, because they're
Mm.
losing all their teachers to this movie. Um, but
Well,
I
and
mean, they would have known each other and worked together, so I think they would have known what was going on. And I don't
yeah.
think Warwick can play, manically depressed.
Yeah, it probably would
He
have
just
seemed a
doesn't
lot
have that
different.
energy.
Yeah. So now I'm looking at again the just a heck of a cast for this movie, and the budget was only and I saw different reports whether it was 40 to 50 million dollars. That's a big stretch of difference between the two. But I mean, if you go to like the internet, it says 40 to 50 million. So it's apparently they didn't know how much they spent on this one. So I just put it at 50 because I figure that's probably closer to correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, this kind of a cast for 2005 and what these guys were doing at the time, that seems like a lot of them might have done this just because they wanted to be a part of it.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of who would have demanded that much. I mean, Rickman was probably the biggest name on that at the time. Like, Zoe Deschanel was still kind of coming up. Um, Martin Freeman was still like not a lead. Mos Def was not really that much of an actor. Like, I think they got good people who just weren't, A-listers to do it, and that's kind of one of the best things to do with comedy.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I was blown away by the cast. I really thought it was well done. Let me ask you one last thing before we move on from cast, and this is really just to get your opinion. Is as a person who was a huge fan, is there anybody you think was miscast? Any of the characters that were miscast that you wish they'd been cast differently?
No, I think they all brought something unique to the things. I mean, maybe like Doshina was playing a little too cute, but like, but she does, the geeky cute, and I think that's what they wanted. So I think it played well. But I mean, they weren't. Like, they were different versions. I think everybody but Arthur was slightly different than who they were in some of the other media. Like, Ford's energy was different. Zaphod's energy was kind of different, especially when he loses his other brain. So yeah, things play differently, and I think that's part of the charm of how these stories have gone.
So then getting back to like the book and the movie too, or continuing on that case at this point, The effects, the bringing them to life, the Vorgons, were they on point? Is that what they were supposed to look like? And by the way, some of them looked like they were dressed like gimps. I have no idea was going on there.
Yeah, they're described as just kind of awful and green and ugly, and that's what stands out. I mean, I guess I kind of pictured them more Jabba-ish originally, but I mean that's not that far off. Like
I think they were,
They
yeah.
are kind of Jabba with legs. Like they're not that far off from that.
Yeah, I think they're pretty spot on. I mean, not, I don't know from the book. I just mean I think they're well done, is what I meant to say.
Yeah, no, they're
The lips and the grossness and the way they move and all that stuff. But the ones that have like the black tight leather suits on and the grid masks on that are, I guess, the equivalent of their stormtroopers, very bizarre. But
I
again,
mean
all of it is, it's
that's
all absurd.
just the way you think of like when you do like Planet of the Apes. The main actors had makeup, the background actors had masks. So
Yeah.
you're not going to make the same level of prosthetics and CG for your background characters.
The ring, like the hitchhiking ring, does that did that work the way you expected it to when he used that?
It's honestly it's such a minor thing, but I think it always to me was just kind of like a stick more than a ring. But I mean, the ring helps it fit the logo better. Um,
Well, and also like the fact
uh,
that he puts it on his thumb and like he's actually hitchhiking.
yeah,
I mean, that's kind of cool.
yeah, it's never the way I pictured it, but I think it worked well, and it. I love this shot. It's just
Oh,
such.
this,
Yeah,
yeah.
very
Uh,
almost Spaceballs esque.
well, yeah, and then the idea that there are all of them, kind of like Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, where he puts all the holes in the earth, and then the way that
Yeah,
it just so like beautifully blows up, like almost like a Death Star sort of a situation. It was kind of crazy. So everything, all of that stuff. There was none of the effects and things that were different from the book that you were like, I wish it had been different, or hey, I didn't imagine it that way, but it's better than I thought.
I mean, it's it's not. I mean, like as I said, like I was familiar with these different versions where everything's a little different. So seeing it again being different, but being wrapped in the same, you know, just garments. Like yeah, it's the same suit with a different tie.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's talk about the guide. The guide itself, man. Like, the when I saw this part, I was like, didn't we already have the opening credits? Like, what are we doing here? And then there's the guide, and we're kind of like, as the audience, thrown into a little bit. Again, I assume they thought most people were going to know all about this. We don't need to over explain it, but let's throw the people like me a bone and kind of explain a little bit about what this is. When it opens up, the first thing I thought to myself is, we have the technology now. We can make this, like with foldable phones and things like that. This looks a lot like that Samsung Galaxy foldable phone. Like,
I mean, it literally is the wiki app on your phone. That's what the guide is.
there you go.
But it plays so well into the music and the look and that part of the past. But then I really love the animation style they did for the book. I think it worked well, and I think it brings the humor and lets the narration and the words, Douglas's language shine without overshadowing it.
Yeah, it was very. It was understated without being boring. It was kind of, I feel like, well done. It was a good aesthetic, but that again takes me to the point of, shouldn't this exist? Like, shouldn't somebody be out there selling this and making money and doing something that is exactly this? Or did they? Like, maybe I missed it because I missed out on this whole bit, but it feels like, yes, you could have made an actual book, but you could do a digital copy of this now, and I feel like, sell it at Christmas and make $1 jillion.
I wonder how the licensing would that work because Douglas did try to do a lot of digital stuff, and he really was in the forefront of like CD-ROM games and stuff when it was coming out, but none of them really worked that well for him. I mean, as I said, like the original Mud game is still considered one of the hardest games of all time, and then I have the book here for Starship Titanic, which is a novelization of a video game story he wrote, which was very Mystian in the way it played, like just like a wandering around trying to solve puzzles without them telling you it's puzzles, trying to fix a ship. So, I mean, he did all this digital stuff. So, I wonder what the rights are and things like that. Like, but really, it does. I mean, I've heard just people want to do it, but I don't know how they can, and especially like as I said, the guide is Wikipedia.
Right. So maybe we missed our window, is what you're saying. It's the technology is too far past it, and everybody already has this in their pocket. So who cares? Let me say, like, when you're talking about like video games of this and everything, this room right here that they were in when they first get they do their first hitchhiking onto this ship, onto the Vorgon ship. This room alone could have been a great puzzle room. It could. I mean, I feel like again, Universal has made, like, let's forget video games for a second. Universal has made escape rooms for Jurassic Park and for Back to the Future. This could have been an escape room because as the Ford is running around this room, he's like, he puts his towel around this and this doesn't pull, but he pulls on this one and that one pulls open, and then he's gonna shoot the signal out this way, and like, it feels like this room could have been hidden with like treasures, either to be an actual panic room at a amusement park, or it actually could be
Yeah.
a really good video game. And then you got to have your towel. What is the deal with the towel? Is there an underlying? You said that, before we started, I think, that the towel was not even a big
At
thing in the
first,
book.
but it wasn't a big thing in the original radio series. And then in the book, it becomes there's pages devoted to why a towel is the most useful thing a hitchhiker could have. Uh, it could keep you warm. It can make you dry. You could soak it in nutrients and pull those out when you need to. And it goes on and on. And one of the things is like and it's such an easy thing to lose that when someone sees a hitchhiker with a towel, they know that they've got their stuff together and, are willing to help them out with the other stuff they might have lost.
Yeah.
So the towel kind of became. So, I mean, it's not this overwhelming thing throughout, but it's just become the symbol because I think I don't remember if it's his birthday or the anniversary of his death, of Douglas's death, is Towel Day. I think May 25th, where the fans are supposed to carry their towels all day.
I mean, do you do that?
I may have done it in the past.
I mean, yeah, might as well, right? Do you think that do you think that this was meant to be in the way that the books were supposed to be? It was supposed to be a trilogy, and then it was four books, and then, like you said, there was like that fifth book, or the fifth one that was
There's
outside
a
of.
six, I think. It's Hitchhiker's Guide, Restaurant at the End of the Universe. So that is this movie is the first four episodes of the radio show and the first book with some added stuff thrown in. Then Restaurant at the End of the Universe was the second half of that, combined with some things from the second radio show, and all melded together. Like things happen in different orders. Um, and Salmon Dowd is not really like, I don't think that's as much. I think it's more of like a look back and like I don't think it's as much of a real story because there's also I think his name is Ian Caulfield or something. He wrote a sixth book in this series. Like he was given permission to write a sixth book carrying it on, but like mostly harmless. And that I've only read like once, but like through the Life, the Universe, and Everything, and Song and Thanks for All the Fish, I've read several times because I think this is like the fifth collected edition I've had of it. So like the first one was the first three, and then I had Mostly Harmless, and then there was four, and then there was Nice Bomb, the Nice Binding of Four. Like, so I've had
Sounds like me
several
and
versions of that.
every version of Star Wars that has ever come out, whether it was the videos, well, here's the widescreen videos, well, I got to have those, and then it's DVD, and then here's the extended edition DVD, and then, oh, now it's on Blu-ray, well, I got to have that.
Yeah, I had all
Yeah.
those. I had the original VHSs. I had those reissue box, like the face boxes. There was one character face on every one, and then you had the special editions, and then the DVDs, and then the. I actually still have the limited edition of the original cuts on DVD. Um, and the only thing I don't even know if they released them in 4K, but I know I have the digitals in 4K. So
So let me ask you this then. The reason I brought up the books in general is that does this one just covers the first book? This movie is just the Hitchhiker's
yeah,
Guide to the Galaxy, right? And so was there more to it? Because it's an hour 49 minutes. Could they have gone longer? Or you also mentioned there was a lot of minor things like the John Malkovich character that they kind of stretched out. Could it have gone longer? Is there stuff that they cut out?
no, I think what they did works because and that's one of the things Douglas did was like he kind of stretched it to a better like a good story. Like that's why like John Lloyd wrote those last two episodes is because they're a little different and didn't fit so well between it. I think like it's a little hard to get to remember exactly how, but like they so they're getting there's a firefight at the end on Magrathea, and they blow up and go into the far end of the future, and then the last two episodes are that where they then escape, and that's the end of that series. And then in the next series they're 2 million years in the past and things start all over again. So that ended where it should, because the whole thing with the rest of the end of the universe and the other stuff that plays around it has been moved around in the timeline of the story a couple times. So just end it with the one most consistent arc.
Yeah, I mean, I do love that at the end he's like, I know this restaurant at the end of the universe, and they are like, that sounds nice, and that's how that all ends. The part with the two little kids, or asking the for the answer, and then coming back 7 million years later and finding out that they didn't ask the right question. I assume is that woven into it, or in this particular
It's
case?
very much so. Like, so there's so much stuff that is shown that is just kind of given as narration in the guide or so much detail. There's a lot more to it. There's a whole like there's arguments between the philosophers and the computer programmers saying, the philosophers as their union coming in, hold on, we're going on strike because computer programmers shouldn't be worrying about the existential questions. That's for us. And then there's a whole thing which like, well, it's going to take 7 million years, so the philosophers can ride the show circuit debating this and live like fat lives for the next 7.5 million years why we work this out. And it just goes into like they were not kids per se. It's
Yeah.
it's
So
that's
so the
all there.
thing so the thing that Sam Rockwell's character does here, where he kind of does a little PowerPoint presentation with them to show them, this is them simplifying, using this device to simplify it for us, the audience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such an aside kind of thing that is done through narration and act like in the book, and then it is acted out on the radio show, but it's takes up a big chunk of of that. So this gets through it much quicker in a more visually interesting way without just it strips a little bit of the satire from it, but maybe satire in 2005 isn't satiring the same things as it was in around 1980. But people riding the chat show circuit, it's kind of timeless at this point.
Yeah, the bureaucracy of the Vorgons is not lost. So let me stop here and thank everybody who's come and been with us tonight live. I see everybody in the chat: Care Bear, Ronald, Jake, and TSN 6899. Fire Chief. If I missed you, I apologize. I see Rob Bazemore dropped by. Thank you guys for being here, for watching. We appreciate it. We're going to have, I forget what's coming up soon, but we'll tell you at the end. I'll give you a rundown of what we've got coming up on Look on the Plus side, and then some other content that we've got going on. But right now we're going to hit Ron up with some trivia, which these should be easy. This should be easy because I feel like you are you know everything about this movie, so I feel like there's really not much I can get past you on this. So and not that I'm trying to. It's just for fun.
Well,
It's
let's
just for
see if
fun.
I also remember how it is in different versions. Might confuse me too. So let's go
Ah,
for it.
true.
Oh no, not
Um,
again.
what?
No, that's just one of the line
Oh,
family
I gotcha.
bullet
See,
petunias.
now you're getting me. So this should be pretty easy for you. Um, uh, Trill, the
Trillion.
character played by Zoe Deschanel. What is her middle name?
Trisha McMillian. Begins with an M. Marie. Can't remember. I know it's an M. Yeah.
You should know.
No, it's an M. But
You said it. It's Marie. You nailed it.
yeah.
You didn't. You weren't even sure, and you threw out Marie, and that's you got it. I mean, you. I was gonna say stop. You're going past the answer, but you're good. So it's Marie. That is true. Marvin says that he has been given GPP. What is GPP?
Genuine People Personalities by the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation. He's a prototype.
Yep. See, I again, I knew that there was nothing I could really put a across from you, but except maybe this, because it's not necessarily about the it's not necessarily about the story, but in the opening credits, whose name comes first after the title? Whose name comes first?
Oof. After the title, is it
Yeah.
Martin or
I mean
Rose?
actors' names. Obviously, I'm not talking about the director or the production companies or anything like that.
Yeah,
The all of those lead up to the title, and then after the title, who's the first name?
I'm guessing it's got to be Martin Freeman.
That is incorrect. It's Sam Rockwell. How crazy is that?
Sam got top billing. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy. And it wasn't even like a with Martin Freeman. It was just like, and it's not alphabetical. Like, I'm not really sure where we're going with all that. So, there's that one. They talked about the dolphins in the beginning, and they said that they jumped backwards through hoops while whistling what?
The Star Spangled Banner.
That is correct. See, I thought at the time, before turned on my camera tonight and saw you with the 42, the Don't Panic phone, and the towel, I thought that one might get you. Clearly, that one was not going to get you. So yeah. So
And so many of those things are just jokes that have carried through all the versions.
yeah. Um, so then the last thing I'm going to ask you is Sam Rockwell's character is eating cereal. What's the cereal that he's eating?
I don't even remember. Um,
Really?
yeah,
Oh, come
I
on.
don't think they meant. I don't think that's from. And I
It's
have no idea.
actually lampooning a British cereal.
Is it a take on Frosties?
No.
Weetabix? I have no idea.
That's the cereal that it's mocking. You knew that.
I mean, those are the only like two British takes on cereal that I can think of, but I have no idea.
It's Starbix.
Oh,
So Weetabix was, I'm sure, the one that it was lampooning, and it's Starbix was the other one. So that's the only five that I'm subjecting you to. But I was going to ask you what Arthur's last name was. I assume you know that.
Dent, Arthur Dent.
That is correct. When we first see Zoe on or Trill on the ship, she's wearing shorts. What color are the shorts?
Kind of like a sparkly blue purplish. That don't guess me
Blue.
colors.
Blue. That's right. I forgot you're colorblind. I'm sorry. Yes, they were blue. And then finally, when they were showing Earth 2.0, or Earth Mark 2, is that what he called it? There was a guy painting the mountains. And I was going to ask you the guy's name.
I have no idea.
He goes, hey Frank, and then he goes, that's Frank. So I mean, it was
Yeah,
like,
no, I did notice. I did notice that.
yeah, that was a little. But dude, those were awesome. Pulling Marie out of nowhere. The last thing I was gonna ask you is is it Beeblebrox? Is that his last? How do you pronounce his last name?
Yeah, see from people, Brox.
Signed the order to destroy Earth. I was gonna ask you how he signed it.
It was like a like hugs and kisses kind of thing. I don't remember
It was
exactly
love
what
and
it
kisses,
was,
exactly. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Thank you for doing that. I hope you guys had fun playing along.
Such a fun. It's a fun series, and
Yeah.
it is truly absurd. And once you give into that, it makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the music. Obviously, the "So Long" and "Thanks for All the Fish." I mean, that's a big one. The Is there anything else that stands out? Here I
That
am.
guide theme is
Come and take.
it's an Eagles song, right?
Well, there's "Magic Moments" by Perry Como. There's the "Here I Am, Come and Take Me" is Al Green. And "So Long and Thanks for All the Fish." Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's been through since the original version.
Gotcha.
Is it Wonderful World, or is that just in the audio?
No,
In the
that's
audio,
not in this one. But I mean, the music is interesting, but I don't think it plays a huge part in it. Except for that opening with "So Long and Thanks for All the Fish," I think that really sets the tone for some strange reason when you come into it.
it does, and once you get off get off that I remember going to see like the South Park movie, and when you find out it's a musical, you're just like, what? Like that just took certain things just like just put you on a weird footing to start, and that was one of them.
Yeah. And then so I mean, after that, the other thing is that it's just it's so hard to follow the story. Like if we in a lot of these episodes of A Look on the Plus Side, we'll kind of follow through the story, but the story just bounces all over the place and is a series of gags more than anything else. So I think that like the resolution of the film is really that whole thing where he is exposed to the weirdness. It's almost like a Wizard of Oz reveal, but not really. It's like the Wizard of Oz reveal is that there's a normal man behind the curtain. In this one, the behind the curtain is stranger than reality, with the fact that the Earth was put together as an experiment by mice. Like that whole line where he says, of mice, and he goes, "You mean of mice and men?" He goes, "Men, I guess." But like that it was put together by mice, and then that the mice were actually those two little kids, and then that they have like another Earth on hold, and like they've been working on it. Are you ready to let it go? And then he's like, "I'm not going to stay." It's just a lot. It's a lot. I mean, what is
so much weirder as time goes on. You find out like the humans aren't actually the real descendants that were set up on the planet, but a spaceship that was sent off from a planet to get rid of all the useless people, like telephone sanitizers and like assistant hairdressers, crash landed on Earth and wiped out the native populations, and they became our ancestors. Like it just gets weirder and weirder. and weirder as time goes on. So, and this just scratches the surface of it.
Yeah. Well, so I guess my question is, at the resolution of this movie, is there a moral to this story?
I don't, I don't think it's that kind of
Party?
story. I mean, the one who goes through like the more like find like that kind of moral journey is, I guess, Trillian realizing like the guy that's perfect for her got away, but that's not a thing from the like Arthur and Trillian don't end up together in the books. Like it's not that's not part of the throughput. So
Yeah.
it's if
Okay.
that was probably one of the things that felt the weirdest coming out of there.
Okay. Well, so I feel like we've kind of touched on all the pieces of it. Do you think there should have been a sequel to it? Do you think they should have, do you think they planned to do that and then either it didn't make as much money or without Douglas Adams they didn't want to go any further?
I think that's the second thing is more. I think it's very hard to go anywhere on this without him, um, because otherwise it's going to be people trying too hard to stick to his material, which is not something he wanted to ever really do. So it's very hard to take the reins from somebody and redo what they did because you're feeling you have to be honor them and be true to what they did when even what they wanted was true to them is go and do something different with the same basic outline. So yeah, I think this was one and done. I mean, maybe I'm sure at some point somebody's going to do it.
Yeah.
Like that's
Well, I
just where
mean,
we are in the world.
with I was going to say with streaming, especially these days, everybody's looking for content, and this seems like one of the very few cult classics that hasn't been rebooted. I mean, you've got Percy Jackson brought back as a series that is could not be a bigger hit. You bring in Harry Potter back as a series. I feel like it's there. It's ripe for the taking. Hopefully, somebody does something, and maybe they do the whole thing together. Maybe not. I don't know. Again, it feels a little weird to do it knowing that, like Rick Riordan is attached to the Percy series in a way he wasn't with the movies. And so it feels more like they're being true to those stories and telling sort of better stories. I don't know how you would continue that. And maybe somebody who like emotes the way that Douglas Adams does, like Neil Gaiman or somebody like that, who, if they were going to be involved with something.
And yeah, Gaiman would be someone I would say because Gaiman, I think, did his biography, or and someone who interviewed him and knew him and worked with him over the
Yeah.
years. So, and it is that kind of sense of he has that kind of sense of humor, even if it's a little darker at times. But obviously, someone who's been so influenced. But once he, as I said, like he's going to want he's going to second guess himself. It's go back to the era of you know what would Walt do, and the people in the '70s took it the wrong way, and what Walt did. Walt never did what Walt did. Walt did something different, and so when you try and look at it from what would Walt do in that perspective, you're going to miss the point.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to talk about before we do final thoughts? Anything that we missed having a conversation about? I mean, I know that you could probably talk on this for another 2 hours, but I want to kind of like wrap it up
Yeah,
with a
no,
final summary.
it's
But if there's anything in particular before we go to final thoughts.
No, I really can't think of anything specific for this. Yeah, so let's
Okay.
go ahead and wrap it up.
Um, All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight again. I appreciate you guys always coming for a look on the plus side. Just to give you sort of a look ahead at what we're going to be doing. If you guys want to do the homework, if you guys want to watch ahead and be able to kind of hang out with us and talk about these things, Bambi. The original Bambi animated is going to be next week. The live action Stitch the week after. I know Jake will be glued to his TV for that one. Ice Age, Charlie, who I have found out has a paleontology background, is going to talk about Ice Age. I feel like that kind of fits and should be very interesting, a very interesting talk. And then Shannon's going to do A Bug's Life, and then Stephanie is going to do Sister Act, and then we're going to do the Halloween Town trilogy and start to get into the spooky season stuff. So we got a lot of stuff happening. Hopefully we'll have Ron back for something else too. Love talking to you about this kind of stuff, Ron. Also, again, big shout out to our pack. We love our pack. The Patreon is patreon.com/go pack. These are the people that keep our community running. We appreciate you guys so much. Special thanks to our Zebra Mezzanine and our Treasure Room supporters. We couldn't do it without you guys, so thank you guys very much for doing that. We're gonna have a pack exclusive. I'm gonna unpack for the pack tomorrow night some of my stuff that I've been accumulating to show off and share. It's gonna be a Patreon exclusive, so hopefully you guys, if you're around, can tune in for that. And then also Friday night we're gonna do Hakuna Matrivia. My son Adam is back to do another round of Hakuna Matrivia. I think a lot of people enjoy watching that show. That'll be on Friday night at 8 p.m. So, and then Sunday night is our Park Adventurers Club. We got a lot of content, so hopefully you check it out, parkadventurersclub.com. Subscribe if you haven't already. But now, Ron, now is the time. Now is the best time. Because if somebody was pulling up Hitchhiker's Guide and they're like, Ron, yeah, I know that you're kind of into this movie. The big question is, putting your fandom aside and other people's minds at ease, would you recommend this movie?
I think you have to know the person's sense of humor. And if you know they do like things like Who or Python or just kind of even like some of the Zucker films like Airplane and stuff, I think you could recommend it. I think it is made for specific fans and people who know the thing. Like, I mean, like the entire scene where they're in the queue is just references to the 80s show. But I think there's enough there without knowing that to be at least entertaining for a lot of people.
Well, I got to say, go ahead. You would recommend it. Okay, so I got to say that I would. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would recommend it if you don't know the source material. I think if you know the source material, you're like Ron and you've watched this movie before. I will say that on its own, and the fact that I swear I thought I'd watched this movie, and as I was watching, I was like, I've so not have watched this movie. I don't know how I missed it. Anything that was Disney or Disney adjacent, I've always tried to just gobble up and watch. And again, 2005, I don't know what I was doing that was any better than this, but and I know my father-in-law was a huge fan of Monty Python, Doctor Who, and of course Douglas Adams. So I would say that even outside of me not knowing the fandom as well, I enjoyed watching the movie, so I would recommend it. I definitely think it's probably a lost movie for a lot of people that maybe they don't think about a lot. So yeah, I would recommend it, and let us know in the comments below what you think, if you would recommend it, if you've watched it, if you're a big fan of the franchise, or if you watch it and you go, hey, you know what, this is better than I thought it would be, or I had totally forgotten about this. We want to hear all of it. Let us know. And Ron, hopefully we can get you back for something else. Your fandoms are all across the board, because you're the big Bluey fan too, and we've talked about a lot of the classic Disney stuff too. So hopefully we can find something else and get back together again and look on the plus side of these. Thanks, appreciate it. Y'all have a great week, and again, Pack, hope to see you tomorrow night. If not, we'll see you Friday night for Hakuna Matrivia, and Sunday night for the Park Adventurers Club. Until then, have a great one. We'll see you next time.